it's a tsunami of women who are coming out of the fields, out of the woods, out of every corner of our states to run for office.
Women are gathering in San Diego this week to get more of their ranks onto election ballots. A high-ranking naval officer from Coronado is out after a string of deadly collisions at sea.
Kids are super excited. It's just one of those cool things where it kind of like, you know, you're doing the right thing.
And after several years of waiting, Linda Vista finally gets rad. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. The Trump administration is appealing a judge's ruling that temporarily blocks its decision to end DACA. That's the program that protects nearly 800,000 young immigrants from deportation. The U.S. Justice Department is also seeking a review by the U.S. Supreme Court on the matter. Congress members are working on a deal to protect DACA recipients, but negotiations became more complicated after Trump was accused of using vulgarity in a meeting with lawmakers while discussing an immigration proposal. A high-ranking Navy officer out of Coronado is taking an early retirement after a string of deadly collisions at sea. Vice Admiral Tom Roden tells the San Diego Union Tribune he'll retire Thursday. Roden is the Navy's top surface warfare officer. His responsibilities include training the crews of most Pacific Fleet warships. That includes the USS McCain and USS Fitzgerald. The two ships were involved in accidents that killed 17 sailors. Signed, sealed, and delivered. San Diego State's plan to revamp Mission Valley moved forward today. Supporters dropped off tens of thousands of signatures for a ballot initiative. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson was at the office of the Registrar of Voters with the next steps.
We're outside the Registrar of Voters here in San Diego, and with me is Steering Committee member Fred Pierce. Fred, talk to me a little bit about what's going on here today.
Well, today's a gigantic milestone in our campaign to give San Diego's voters an option for Qualcomm Stadium's property. We're turning in our signatures, 106,000 strong supporters in the community, a real exciting day.
Okay. 106,000 signatures. You only need 71,000 to get that initiative, roughly 71,000. Why so many more?
Well, in this process, you know, some people don't recognize they're not a registered voter within the city. They might be in the county. Some people might get excited and sign something twice. And so we need a margin of error so that when the registrar goes through and does their audit, we make sure we've got at least the 71,000 that are needed.
You're delivering the boxes of signatures today. How long will it be before you know whether or not you have enough?
Well, I believe they have 30 days in order to validate that we have the required number of signatures. We're hoping they'll prioritize and get it done quicker, but certainly we'll know within 30 days.
Okay. What happens once you find out that you have enough signatures, or if you find out that you don't?
Well, we're going to have enough signatures, and once they validate that, then they'll forward it to the City Council, who will have two choices: to either directly adopt the initiative or to put it on the ballot. We fully expect it will be on the ballot next November to go head-on-head against Soccer City.
Okay. That's important to be on the ballot at the same time as Soccer City. Why?
Well, because we want the voters of San Diego to have a choice. They deserve a choice, and one that offers a fair, open, and transparent process. That's what we do. Our initiative starts the process. You know, it says what uses can be there, and SDSU's just put their plan out in the public, and then the public will be able to evaluate it, comment on it, can be modified, and it's important that voters have a choice.
Okay, they are looking to do what, basically, with this plot of land where the stadium is now in Mission Valley?
Well, it's going to facilitate the future growth of San Diego State University in a lot of different areas, including research, technology transfer, potentially housing to support the university, possible academic units. But first and foremost, it starts with putting education first and having an education-centric approach to the redevelopment of the Qualcomm Stadium site.
You also are going to have a sports stadium there for the Aztec football team and other sports, presumably, and a river park is part of the plan.
Yes, absolutely. And so the river park in the plan the university has put forward is 50 acres. It's even more than is stipulated in the initiative, which was a 34-acre river park. The university saw fit in its plans to put 50 acres there, and a total of 89 total acres of parkland and open space. It's more than 60% more open space than the other choice.
Okay. What happens with both measures on the ballot? What happens if both measures pass?
Yeah, if they both pass, meaning they get more than 50%, 50% plus one, the one with the most votes wins.
Okay. Fred Pierce is a member of the steering committee of SDSU West at the Registrar of Voters. I'm Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
A 4-day conference in San Diego this week is teaching women how to run for office at the local, state, and federal levels. KPBS reporter Susan Murphy has more from the Catamaran Resort in Mission Bay, where nearly 100 women with ties to the agricultural industry are gathered.
The surge in women getting into politics comes on the heels of the Women's March. Then came the flood of sexual harassment allegations against powerful men. Women here say the toxic political environment has to go. For 51-year-old Charlotte Smith from St. Paul, Oregon, running for president of the Northwest Farmers Union came as a no-brainer.
Well, I grew up in agriculture, and women are sorely underrepresented in leadership positions in agriculture.
49-year-old Alicia Lineberger from Viroqua, Wisconsin is looking to oust a long-term Republican male in the 96th Assembly seat.
I'm running because we don't have any voice in rural America and especially family farmers. We don't have any voice in politics anymore, in policy.
Smith and Lineberger are part of a growing number of women seeking government offices, where women's representation has been stuck at 22%. During the conference, they're networking and learning the important tools for building their campaign operations, from communications to fundraising.
It's a tsunami of women who are coming out of the fields, out of the woods, out of every corner of our states to run for office.
Liz Johnson is a leader of the conference and co-founder of the nonprofit and nonpartisan organization Vote, Run, Lead.
So we're in this transformational time right now as we speak.
She travels the country training women who want to run for office. She says there's never been a bigger opportunity for women to put their hat in the ring, and she's never seen so many women vying to put their name on the ballot.
People are looking for new faces. They're looking for women to step up and lead. Men and women want more women to run for office.
Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
The San Diego judge involved in the Trump University lawsuit was back in his Indiana hometown over the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday to speak about the power of King's message and the value of an integrated America. KPBS reporter Steve Walsh has the story.
Judge Gonzalo Curio was in the national spotlight when then-candidate Donald Trump questioned whether the judge could rule on a class action lawsuit against Trump University because of his Mexican heritage.
Judges in this court system, federal court, they ought to look into Judge Curiel, because what Judge Curiel is doing is a total disgrace, okay?
The soft-spoken federal judge actually grew up in Indiana. He was back home today as the featured speaker for Martin Luther King Day at the local college. His take on King's legacy seemed to mirror at times the judge's experience.
Even today, we live in a land where vicious epithets are hurled at each other to hurt and to ridicule people because of who they are, where they're from, or who they love. In these divisive times, we are wise to turn to Dr. King's gospel, the good word that teaches us that we will stand up for justice, we will love our enemies, and as there is a God, we shall overcome.
Curiel did not break his silence about Trump or the case, instead highlighting King's values of tolerance and inclusiveness.
Dr. King marched for integration because he knew that integration of public accommodations in schools held the key to exposing races to each other so that unfounded stereotypes and fears could be replaced with understanding. Dr. King knew it, and I know it. I know it from growing up in East Chicago, Indiana.
The ethnic enclave is populated with immigrants from around the world who came to work in heavy industry. Curiel told students at Purdue University Northwest that San Diego shares some of the same benefits of integration. On one light moment, he asked what he would do if he were nominated for the Supreme Court. Curiel joked, "That's not going to happen." Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
An update tonight on California's high-speed rail project. State officials say the first phase will cost $10.6 billion. That's $2.8 billion more than past estimates. The fresh costs are due in part to trouble acquiring the rights-of-way for the track and the need to build more barriers along the tracks. Once phase 1 is completed in 2029, officials say it will get riders from San Francisco to Los Angeles in less than 3 hours. When voters approved the project 8 years ago, the estimated total cost was $40 billion. Now it's up to $67 billion. An attempt to repeal California's recently enacted gas tax has failed. It missed a filing deadline, but backers have turned their support to a similar measure that would repeal the tax and require that any future gas tax increases be put to a vote.
The problem is the people of California never got a chance to vote on this gas tax. So the repeal simply gives the people of California the ability to vote on whether or not they want to pay one of the highest gas taxes in the nation and one of the highest car registration fees, which just went into effect on January 1st.
The gas tax is expected to raise more than $5 billion a year for road repair and mass transit upgrades. Backers of the current repeal effort need to collect 580,000 signatures to place the initiative on the ballot. State lawmakers are trying to come up with ways to help wildfire victims get through insurance claims. A package of 8 bills is in response to the fires that devastated Northern California's wine country. The ideas include expanding the window for collecting replacement cost from 2 years to 3. Insurance companies would also have to update their estimates to keep up with construction rates.
This isn't about pitting the survivors of these tragedies and policyholders against the insurance companies. This is about making a system that works for all Californians.
The Northern California wildfires were the costliest in state history, with insurance claims topping $9 billion. Another false alert today about a missile attack, this time from public broadcasting in Japan. An alert was sent out warning people of an attack from North Korea and urging them to seek shelter. The warning was retracted several minutes later. It was similar to a false alarm over the weekend in when Hawaii's Emergency Management Department triggered panic after mistakenly sending a similar warning message to mobile phones across the state. Today, the governor of Hawaii is promising a thorough review of the state's emergency system.
Children going down manholes, stores closing their doors to those seeking shelter, and cars driving at high speeds cannot happen again. We will do a better job of educating the public.
Hawaiian officials say the false alert was sent when someone hit the wrong button during a shift change. A bill that would require all college health centers in California to offer medicated assisted abortions is making its way through the state Senate. As KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg explains, proponents say it's all about access.
Doctors say medication-assisted abortion is an option for women who are less than 10 weeks pregnant. The drugs aren't currently provided at college health centers in California. That means female students who want to take advantage of the service have to go to an off-campus clinic. Critics say the measure would lower health and safety standards for students. But State Senator Connie Leyva, who wrote the bill, says that's just not true.
Medicated abortion is as safe as Tylenol and as safe as Viagra, and we don't worry about people taking either of those two medications.
Under Leyva's measure, the costs of providing on-campus medication-assisted abortions would be covered by private groups. The bill will next be heard in the Senate Appropriations Committee. Kenny Goldberg, KPBS News.
California officials say the mother of 13 children kept locked in their Paris home was perplexed about why police came to their home. Deputies were led to the home by an emaciated teenager who escaped and called 911. Authorities found children and adults captive, ranging in age from 2 to 29, some malnourished and chained to beds. The mother and father of the children are in jail, each held on a $9 million bail. They could face charges of torture and child endangerment.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, an immigration deal stalls as a potential federal government shutdown looms. Coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Imperial Valley's Salton Sea is poised to begin shrinking at an unprecedented speed this year. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson says that's raising concerns about the future of the place that's considered both an ecological treasure and a looming public health disaster.
West Shores High School principal Richard Pimentel slips on a cowboy hat before stepping outside.
So is your grade a little higher now? All right, way to go, kid.
It's as much fashion as a nod to the region's harsh desert sun.
We are about 30 miles from anywhere.
The school sits halfway up the Salton Sea's western shore.
Oh my gosh. You guys are seriously beautiful without being all made up, but like, look at those.
Pimentel offers a fun but firm hand for his 450 students.
They're my kids. You have to take responsibility and ownership of that. These folks have entrusted me with the welfare of their kids. It's a big deal.
But Pimentel can't protect his students from the desert dust.
Anytime there's any kind of wind, you see the dust clouds, and you can actually kind of see them from the outside. From as I'm driving in some days, kind of see the cloud hover.
The dust in those clouds contributes to the Imperial Valley's highest in the state asthma rates, and most people who live here expect things to get worse. That's because the Salton Sea is shrinking, exposing thousands of acres of possibly toxic lakebed to the region's powerful winds. This, for example, looks like sand. But when you look at it close, what you see is that it's barnacles. But that's not what they're worried about. What they're worried about is this, the fine dust that comes from this playa exposed by the receding sea. With about 1.5 million residents in the air basin, there's concern this could become a public health disaster.
Without any intervention, it is exactly that.
Bruce Wilcox is the Assistant Secretary for California's Natural Resources Agency in charge of Salton Sea policy. He's helping guide the state's recently approved restoration blueprint.
You look over my shoulder, you can see a lot of exposed playa that probably we should have been working on this since 2004 or 5, and we haven't been.
California actually agreed to start working on the Salton Sea restoration back in 2003 when a massive water management deal for Colorado River water was reached. But nothing happened until late last year when the state finally agreed to spend $80 million now and another $300 million over the next decade. Wilcox says the final bill will likely top $1 billion.
We need a long-term, long-range funding source for this project. It isn't going to be something that's $5 million here and $5 million there.
But he says it's a start, and that happened largely because the Imperial Irrigation District threatened to sue.
Hi.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Water manager Tina Shields says IID also suggested a lack of action could interrupt a water transfer deal with San Diego.
It's a challenge when you're this far into things to turn water on and off, and there's lots of reasons not to do it. But if we've got kids getting sick, that's just not tolerable for our community, and it's an unacceptable level of risk that we would take in order to continue those transfers.
Sunny Bono Salton Sea National Wildlife Refuge sits just east of the southern end of the sea.
Yeah, this is about a 5-acre pond, and lined with cattails on the side. That gives you a good indication it's a freshwater pond and in good shape.
Chris Schoeneman works for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. He's working to build a similar project on a 500-acre site near here. A berm would hold shallow water from agricultural runoff and water pumped in from the Salton Sea.
We have estimated that we'll have to keep pumping 24/7.
This model is designed to be replicated to cover more than 20,000 acres of playa, about half the lake bed that's expected to be exposed. Getting that working model up and running is a year behind schedule. The lake bed is too soft for heavy equipment to build the berms, and the pump getting the water from the Salton Sea will have to be on a barge so it can continue tapping the receding lake. Schoeneman remains optimistic, however, because the region is so important to wildlife.
The Salton Sea, for much of its past, the past 100 years, on a daily basis has provided food for over 200,000 birds every day. That's huge. That's on the scale of San Francisco Bay or Great Salt Lake in Utah.
Keeping pace with the Salton Sea's retreat remains the goal, but state officials are already behind in reclamation work and deciding how much money to invest. $80 million is committed. $300 million more will round out the cost of the 10-year plan, but the complete cost will likely fall well north of $1 billion. Officials are optimistic the money will be found, but currently that funding, like the future of the Salton Sea, remains uncertain. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
The National Weather Service has issued a high surf advisory for the region through Thursday. Tonight, clouds are moving in, but rain is not expected until later on this week. Erin Calandra has the full forecast.
Hopefully everybody had a nice day today. The weather was okay. It started off a bit foggy, but then some sunshine throughout the day. Taking a look at our satellite and radar, not much happening, but we do have a couple more clouds than typical and also some morning fog, couple showers going through Las Vegas right now. Tonight, 53 degrees, some clouds and some fog, and that's how it looks across the county. Borrego Springs, 46 for the low, Oceanside 44, Poway 48, and San Diego 53 degrees. We have a high pressure system in place here on Wednesday. This is allowing some more moisture to come in off the coast, and it's going to increase our clouds and also our fog for just a couple of days. Temperature still warm. San Diego 73. That's a couple degrees above average. Poway 83, Ramona 80, Alpine 77, and Chula Vista coming in at 75 degrees. Now, toward the end of the week, we're going to see some rain. We have this big ridge in the jet stream, so that's keeping us relatively warm, but we also have a powerful storm coming in with a cold front, and you'll certainly need the umbrellas on Friday. So leading up to that, it gets a bit cooler on Thursday, and then Friday, here comes those showers. Behind that cold front, it's going to be several degrees colder, down to 64 degrees. That's about typical, though. Saturday, some morning showers and also cooler, 62 degrees. By Sunday, it's drying out and just a couple degrees warmer. Inland, again, we're at 83 on Wednesday. By Friday, with those showers, we drop down to 64. So that's going to be a significant drop. You'll certainly need the umbrella. Saturday, some morning showers and a much cooler day, 63 degrees for the high. In the mountains, well, temperatures drop down to the 40s on Friday. Very cool temperatures. Look at those overnight lows in the 20s. We're going to see some showers. Could even see some freezing rain and some slippery spots there. And in the deserts, well, we're in the 70s, drop down to 67 on Friday. Not as warm, but also a lot drier. We don't expect showers to really reach the deserts by Friday. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra. Ebony, back to you.
San Diego's newest skate park is now open. In 2014, the city received a nearly $5 million grant from the state to build it and another one in City Heights. Project organizers say it's one of the largest in California. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman tells us how the Linda Vista community rallied to get the project completed.
Ready, guys? After nearly 5 years in the making, the gates opened to San Diego's newest skate park Tuesday. Chris Lamone grew up in Linda Vista and first brought up the idea.
When we originally started out, we were happy with just getting the kids out of the parking lot, because originally they were skating in the grocery store parking lot. So it became a matter of trying to find someplace safe for the kids to go.
Elected officials and community members were at the grand opening, watching riders enjoy the new space.
Kids are super excited. I walk by a group of kids. The kids are always like, yeah, Linda Vista Skate Park. And it's just one of those cool things where it kind of like, you know, you're doing the right thing.
This is by far the best skate park in Southern California.
In 2013, the Tony Hawk Foundation became involved, taking the project to the next level.
With a typical skate park, somewhere in the range of 10,000 square feet, here you've got, you know, north of 35,000 square feet. What the designers have beautifully done is blend not just sort of high-level professional features, but, you know, stuff that even beginners can skate.
The park finished construction a couple months ago, but had been closed to allow for grass and plants to grow.
People have been jumping fences to come and skate this, and I've been getting a lot of calls and inquiries about it. And yeah, it's a problem, but it's kind of the problem you want. You want people to be excited about it.
The skate park is now open daily from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Rules stipulate that skaters must wear safety gear, and kids under 12 have to be with a parent or guardian. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.